The numbers are bogus that the government's giving us. And there is an argument to be made that we've been in a recession literally since 2010, 2011, after the recovery from 2008, because we've been on life support ever since. And why is it that the financial system / real economy, why is it that they can't stand on their own? And the answer to that is there's too much debt. Well, the final schmuck is going to be the Federal Reserve. I mean, they are going to be the buyer of last and only resort, and that is outright monetization. Well, what will happen is the value of the dollar will decline, and we already can see that incomes are not keeping up with inflation, so the middle class is being pinched on a daily basis, and then all of a sudden they wake up one morning and their dollar only buys 70% of what it did the day before, or 60 or 50 or 40. Who knows how bad the dollar is going to crash. But when it does, purchasing power is going to collapse. You've got government numbers telling you everything is fine, but with your own two eyes, you can see that there's all kinds of problems out there. I mean, you've got even companies even like Target talking about the consumer is tapped out. So, I mean, we're going to know very shortly because we got a Christmas season coming up. But it looks to me like the consumer is tapped out. I mean, I've seen more precious metal sales, nothing big, but people raising money just to live on, which, like I've not seen it in 15 years. So there's definitely tightness out there. The numbers are bogus that the government's giving us. And there is an argument to be made that we've been in a recession literally since 2010, 2011, after the recovery from 2008, because we've been on life support ever since. And why is it that the financial system / real economy, why is it that they can't stand on their own? And the answer to that is there's too much debt. But like I said, there's an argument to be made that we've basically flatlined from that point forward. Well, the final schmuck is going to be the Federal Reserve. I mean, they are going to be the buyer of last and only resort, and that is outright monetization. I mean, you mentioned that, the deficit this year is $2 trillion. What if the government didn't borrow and spend $2 trillion into the economy? What would the numbers look like? It would look like we're in a depression. I mean, that's 6-7% of GDP. What would the economy have looked like for the last 15 years? Or for that matter, since the 1970s? What would the economy have looked like if it did not have the additional federal spending? It was all borrowed money. What if that money was not spent into the economy? I mean, we would not have had any growth whatsoever. The government is going to default because they cannot pay that money back in current terms. What they could do is they could print $35 trillion and put it in the money supply. But what will that do? That will absolutely destroy the dollar. So they're not going to default in the form of a non-payment, but they're going to default because the dollar is going to collapse in purchasing power. And people are going to get paid back with nothing. Your average watcher or listener is going to say, oh, no, well, the dollar hasn't lost value. Look at the U.S. dollar index. Well, that's a piece of shit, the dollar, measured by various pieces of crap all over the world, other currencies, the euro, the yen, the pound, etc. If you want to measure the dollar, look at a cup of coffee. Look at an ounce of gold. The dollar has imploded. I mean, the dollar is down better than 90% since January 1st, 2000. At that point in time, gold was about $260, $270 an ounce. Now it's $27.50. So it's gone up better. Gold costs more than 10 times more than it did in the year 2000. That is a decline of 90%. Everybody watching this or listening to this should absolutely read and find out and understand what the great taking is. Once these markets implode, you're going to see banks, you're going to see brokers, you're going to see insurance companies that fail. And once they fail, people are going to find out that their money is not their money. Their money, if you put money into a bank, you're not a depositor. You are a lender, and you are the most junior lender there is. So along with waking up one morning and finding out that your dollar only buys 70% of what it did the day before, people are going to find out they don't have any dollars left because they got bailed in. Once the markets collapse and people get bailed in, and the population is going to beg for a solution. And that solution is going to be the central bank digital currency, which is still going to be fiat, backed by nothing, and that will also fail. But that's how they're going to try to introduce the CBDC, because as they say, never let a good crisis go to waste. I do not believe that they're ready to go live with the unit. I'd be surprised if they did. But I do believe that a strongly worded communique is going to be issued, and in that communique, they will probably bang the dollar and outright say, we have zero plans of using dollars for settlement. Settlement will be exclusively done through a BRICS currency. And I would like to see in that communique, and not, obviously don't know whether they will or not, but I would like to see them come out and describe what's going to back that unit. I mean, I've heard, first off, it's only the little guy who's selling. I mean, in this year, like I said, I've seen more sales, but they're all small. 5,000, 10,000, 25, 50. Business in North America was good for the first 5 months, and then June, July, and August, it was slow. And I can tell you, it's definitely picked up in September and here in October. I've done a huge amount of sales just in the last 4 weeks alone. So big money is definitely moving into gold and silver. To speak to, does gold have the momentum? Gold is not overbought. It's close to being overbought. But like I said, gold has moved literally like a bulldozer in first gear. You haven't seen any big, huge spurts. We've not seen $100, $200 days, but those are coming. We could go on like this, and in a month or two, or even less, we get a spike. You could see $3,000 gold pretty easy. Silver broke through 32.50 on Friday. We traded as high as 32 or 34 and a quarter, 34.50 today. Silver to me looks like that's going to be explosive. And all along I've said that silver would be gold on steroids. And that's just a function of the ratio. The ratio at, I think it's 81 ounces buys 1 ounce of gold now. I could easily see that in a fairly short period of time come down to the 50-40 zone, and you'd basically have a doubling of, silver's action versus gold. It will outperform gold, I think, at least 2-1. Yeah, for hundreds of years it was 16-1. And the reason being, it comes out of the ground basically at 10-1. And because gold and silver had to be moved or transported, by carriage or mule or whatever, man discounted the price of silver. And it was agreed upon that a 16-1 ratio versus 10-1 was appropriate. It was enough of a discount to entice people to move 10 times as much metal, silver, as opposed to gold. So that's why it was discounted from 10-1, because that is the ratio that it comes out of the ground. I could easily see it coming down to the 20 to 30 range, and that would make sense. And an additional push to silver is that Russia announced last week or the week before that they're going to start buying silver. Well, guess what? There is no silver to buy. I mean, silver's been in a deficit now for 4 years. There's no above ground supplies where Russia's going to be able to buy their silver from. And what will end up happening is just by whatever buying they do, if it has to come off of COMEX or LBMA, those inventories, they're going to fail to deliver. And then it's game over. You get a reset of everything. And I don't know, where does gold and silver reset? I think 20 is probably a decent number. I've heard some people say that, silver's going to become more valuable than gold, and I think that's laughable. Historically, if you know that a recession or very hard times are coming, you want to go to cash. And the ultimate cash is gold and silver. They are money. All of the fiat currencies, look at their names. The dollar, the pound, the lira, the peseta, the peso. All of those names signify a weight. And what was that weight? It was gold and silver. All of these currencies are derivatives of gold and silver. You don't want to own derivatives, you want to own the real thing. You hold gold and silver through the collapse, and you use your gold and silver, you use that wealth that you protected to buy up assets at pennies on the dollar. Whether it be real estate, I mean, look at commercial real estate in the United States. There have been some giant office buildings, hotels. There have been some very big buildings that have changed hands at 15 cents, 10 cents. I've even heard of 6 cents on the dollar 5 or 10 years ago of what they traded for or what the appraisals were. So commercial real estate has absolutely imploded. And that's going to happen with housing. It's going to happen with all real estate. It's going to happen with all assets. And this is what I've talked about for 10 years. The end game would be inflation of everything that you need and deflation of everything that you have.